Debating the libs, owning the libs is funny, but I also think it's really cool when we have thought-provoking, critical thinking conversations, and that's what I like to do. Went around Penn State's campus and was asking people if they would pay reparations. I would go out to them and be like, what do you guys think about reparations? Would you pay reparations? And kids would literally be like, yeah, I'll give you $20 for reparations. And I'm like, what is going on in our society?
All right, guys, we got Morgan here from Turning Point. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me on. It's
Absolutely.
fun.
It's been a really fun event, so well done.
Thank you. I know this is I don't even know, my 4th year coming to Turning Point events is how I got involved with everything. So
Nice.
It's fun to see how big our events have gotten and seeing just all the attendees from like little kids all the way up to like our grandparents are coming.
I know. I've never seen an event like that where there'll be like a 5-year-old and then there'll be an 80-year-old walking around the same venue.
That's why I say no one does it like Turning Point USA.
Absolutely. You're inclusive of everyone.
Exactly.
You know? I love it. You just moved to DC, right?
I did. I moved to DC. I've been doing a lot of political commentary. I was at the Supreme Court actually a couple weeks ago with the Skirmetti case going on,
Whoa.
you know, looking at all of the crazy trans activists who want to mutilate our kids. And then, you know, the sane parents who don't want to. And it's really interesting kind of place to be, if I'm honest, because before moving to DC, I thought it would just be like this kind of liberal hellhole. But it's kind of weird when you see leftists and also conservatives kind of living in harmony. You'll see like a Harris Wall sign on one place. You don't really see a lot of Trump signs, but you know that there's conservatives all around. So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting place. I've only been there for a couple months, but so far I really love it.
Yeah, I think the conservatives are more hidden in DC.
Definitely.
You know, DC is definitely pretty liberal.
It definitely is. Definitely is very liberal.
Did you see the White House just had a bunch of social media influencers there?
I did for one of their White House Christmas parties.
Right.
We saw
David Pac-Man.
Harry Sisson was there, all of the liberals.
Hunter Biden was there.
And what was so funny is when I saw Harry Sisson post a photo with Hunter Biden, I'm like, did you really think that was a good idea? I actually tweeted and I said, did you ask him about the laptop? Did you ask about, I think you should go up to Joe Biden and ask about Ashley Biden's diary or something. Like it just mind boggles me how so many of these paid DNC shills are continually going to the White House, getting paid by them to promote nonsense. I mean, I don't think there was a single masculine man in that arena.
I would say if they measured the testosterone levels, it would be pretty low.
I think I have more testosterone than Harry Sisson. That's what I tweet.
You might. Would you ever debate him?
Honestly, I would. Actually, I was supposed to go on News Nation with Harry, but Harry backed out. So I ended up, it was me with the host on News Nation with this Latino leftist. But Harry wasn't on the show, but he was supposed to be on.
Wow.
So Harry Sisson.
Yeah, come on, Harry. I had him on my show. And
No way.
afterwards, I was like, can I line up some debates for you? He's like, yeah, I'll debate anyone. And then just quiet.
He always falls through. It's like, Harry, what are you doing? If you're going to say all this online, you know, stand up for what you believe in and actually debate some people.
Yeah. And then every time I log on TikTok, he's debating some random guy.
Well, that's the thing is that on TikTok, all of these leftist shills can debate randoms who really don't know a whole lot. But as soon as they talk to an actual conservative who knows what they're talking about, they're going to fold.
Right. And they have all the power on the lives because they can mute people. They could kick people.
Yep.
So,
and they have their own talking points that they're going to continue to use and confuse people who don't know anything about politics.
Yeah, it's not a fair setting. But that was interesting to me to see that event because the White House, they established some sort of social media department now. So they're actually inviting influencers there.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I saw David Pac-Man's video on this yesterday. He said there's a new department and they're, because they know how much power we have now.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at Gen Z, we were 15% of the electorate. 81% of Gen Z turns to social media for news information. TikTok is the #2 generator for news. And, you know, most new conservatives, most new voters are turning to TikTok for that information. So, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer that we should be having influencers and social media content creators a part of the conversation when it comes to politics. Otherwise, no one's really talking to Gen Z. They're not watching the legacy media.
Yeah.
The media's dead. You know, what people are listening to is YouTube. They're listening to TikTok. They're listening to Instagram Reels. And that is where, you know, people are getting their information now.
Yeah, they're listening to Candace Owens. She's getting all-time views.
She's getting a lot of views.
Brett Cooper's about to get a lot of views, I think.
I'm so excited for Brett. I think she is going to skyrocket on YouTube with her content. And honestly, what I think is really interesting with the content space right now is I don't think we need to be overtly conservative anymore. I think a lot of people are kind of tired of the super over political content and instead just live your day-to-day life, you know, be an influencer, do what you love and just talk about your conservative values and what you love in this nation. And, you know, it's kind of this underlining conservative messaging throughout all of content. And then you can just be entertaining. Like we just need to have like right-wing entertainment entertainment content instead of it just being all of these political pundit kind of shows.
Absolutely. We got to branch off because shout out to today's sponsor, Prolon. If starting the year with a fast feels a little daunting, you're not alone. There's an entire community of individuals wanting to make a meaningful decision in their health just like you. This is what makes group fasting so powerful and why I'm joining in on Prolon's January Longevity Challenge, which is a coach-led program to set you up for fasting success. Prolon's fasting mimicking diet is a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. I got all 5 boxes here and I'm starting day 1 tomorrow. It's researched and developed for decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by leading US medical centers. It helps promote healthy blood sugar, enhanced skin appearance, fat loss, and improved energy and focus. It all starts with their 5-day program, which contains snacks, soups, and beverages designed to keep the body in a fasting state. No guesswork or planning required, which is a relief after a busy holiday. If you guys are ready to make 2025 your healthiest year yet, order your Prolon 5-day kit at prolonlife.com/DSH. And they're offering Digital Social Hour listeners 15% off their 5-day nutrition program. Use the code DSH at prolonlife.com/DSH. We can't limit ourselves too much, right?
Yeah.
And also our foot can't go off the gas as well.
100%.
Because they'll catch up.
That's what, like, we have the momentum now. We've won. So now what's next is we have to continue that momentum because complacency is what loses.
Absolutely. I went through some of your posts on X.
Okay.
We got to go through some of these.
Let's go through it. Oh no.
There is no such thing as a trans child.
There's no such thing as a trans child. No, you cannot change your gender. A woman is XX, a man is XY. I think that's very self-explanatory. I mean, I'll go even as radical as there's no such thing as a trans person. Sue me, but it's true. Why are we allowing for this gender nonsense to continue to infiltrate the next generation? Why are we allowing LGBTQ re-education classes in kindergarten, where there's 4 and 5-year-olds learning gender pronouns? I think it's absolutely ridiculous what the Department of Education has been putting in these public schools, indoctrinating the next generation. And it's even going through college. I mean, when I was in college, I was in a women and gender studies class and doing a presentation on why Planned Parenthood was good just so I could pass the class. And that's my one regret in college. My one regret in college was when I took that class. It was before I was a staunch conservative and was standing up for my beliefs. And I allowed a self-proclaimed transgender TA to dictate what I said in that class.
Well, I don't think you should regret it. I think you should, learn from it.
That's true.
You got their perspective.
That's true. I definitely learned from it. Now do what I do now.
Yeah. Was it all women in that class?
No, there was some men. Which is so funny being in a women's and a gender studies class. It's mostly about women's health, I guess, women's rights. But then you have all of these young men who are clearly uncomfortable taking these classes. I think it's just a lot of BS that's going on.
Were there a lot of feminists in that class?
I think they all were feminists or like closeted conservatives like me that were too scared to say anything at the time. This was back in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, peak cancel culture time, right?
Peak cancel culture time.
Yeah, those were scary times.
You couldn't wear a MAGA hat on campus.
Couldn't endorse Trump.
No.
Couldn't even post anything related to Trump.
I mean, that's what I started posting around 2019, 2020 during pandemic times and, posting the same kind of things I do now. And that's when my sorority girls came after me and they're like, you can't be doing this. I'm like, I have the First Amendment.
Wow.
The Constitution protects me, not you and your random bylaws that don't abide by this.
That's crazy. So you almost got kicked out of your own sorority?
Yeah. While I was on the executive board.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Which college was this?
Texas Tech.
So
one of the most red districts in the state of Texas, Lubbock, Texas, in the Panhandle. Yet Greek life was, especially my sorority, was predominantly, feminist liberals. The overarching nationals was very liberal. And I was literally just posting about how Donald Trump is a good candidate in 2020, how COVID is a scam, and just normal things that were being talked about in the right wing. And I was deemed bigoted. That's hate speech. Girls are uncomfortable with this. You're not being a good representation of the sorority. And they threatened my
That's crazy.
recruitment.
So you dropped out of college though, right?
I did drop out of college after that.
Got it. Was that kind of your final straw?
Part of it, I actually got involved with Turning Point kind of in this transition time. I was in my sorority, then I left. I got my alumni status and I still had 1 more year left. I was studying to be a mechanical engineer. Still love engineering. It's still one of my passions in life. But I realized that, in Gen Z, in my generation, there really wasn't a lot of young female voices. I didn't really have a lot of mentors at the time of when I was speaking out. There wasn't anyone that I could DM and be like, hey, I'm struggling in college. People are canceling me. And so I decided that it was better fit and God really opened the doors that I could then pour into other young women and, continue to grow other Turning Point chapters. So that's when I joined a chapter. I went to one of our Turning Point events back in 2021. And it all kind of just happened from there.
I love it. Do you do the campus debates too?
A lot of them.
Nice.
I do a lot of our man on the street content. Like that's kind of my thing. My lane is I am the man on the street girl. I go on tours with Charlie this year. Charlie hit 25 campuses in all the swing states, and we saw how that impacted the election.
Massive.
Which is massive. The work that Turning Point Action and Turning Point USA has done with these tours, I will never forget when I was on Penn State's campus, Pennsylvania swing state, real stronghold, 3,000 college students come up and you just see this sea of MAGA hats out there.
Wow.
The political landscape on these college campuses has changed like never before. When you compare a college campus from 2016, 2020 to 2024, 2020, you couldn't walk around with a MAGA hat on a campus. Now you actually can. And I think that just shows how the culture is shifting. Not even just politics is shifting, but how the culture is changing. And I think if we can win the culture, we will win forever, honestly.
Absolutely. The power of social media too.
Absolutely.
Because you guys would inspire people in person, but then you would post the clips, get hundreds of millions of views.
Billions of views.
Yeah.
Like over the last year collectively with Charlie's debating. And it's like, debating the libs, owning the libs is funny, but I also think it's really cool when we have thought-provoking, critical thinking conversations. And that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
I actually went around Penn State's campus and was asking people if they would pay reparations. And I had one of our other contributors, Topher, with me. Yeah. And so I would go out to them and be like, what do you guys think about reparations? Would you pay reparations? And I would pull them in there and kids would literally be like, yeah, I'll give you $20 for reparations. And I'm like, what is going on in our society? And then we'd like re-educate them, be like, yeah, no, like this is actually not a good idea. You don't need to pay for my lunch. But it's crazy how these kids, when you just ask them an open-ended question for the first time, they actually open up and realize, like, honestly, the destruction and the brainwashing that they've been going through.
Right.
And I think these universities, it's very apparent to me that they don't want us on those campuses because they're scared that a Turning Point USA chapter or a representative or a speaker can reverse the damage that they have done in 4 years' time, but they come to one Turning Point event and all of a sudden they can think differently and they have their eyes opened.
Has a campus ever said you're not allowed here?
Yes.
Which ones?
Oh my gosh. So it's actually high schools.
Oh, high schools.
And it's funny because Turning Point USA has more high school chapters than we do college chapters.
Oh, wow.
And I was speaking at a school in Sacred Heart Preparatory in California, was where the event was planned. It's a Catholic high school. And they said that I do not uphold Catholic values. I'm a Protestant Christian myself.
Yeah.
And I thought that that was very funny being in the neighborhood that I actually grew up in as a kid. And then another school in Florida wouldn't let me come on campus. San Jose State had canceled one of my events because the room was double booked, which we know didn't happen. And so they will throw as many stones in my way as they can. But at the end of the day, you can't stop free speech and we'll still show up and still do the events, even if it's in the middle of a parking lot.
Absolutely. Have you guys ever gotten kicked out when you set up? And
we've had a couple times where they've been told us to like turn off our mics or that we can't be on campus anymore. Right? Yeah. Penn State, we had to cut our mics and Charlie had lost his voice. No. But I was up there with a megaphone and talking to all the kids, which was honestly one of the most iconic moments, standing on a table with a megaphone, chanting at Penn State students, 3,000 of them, just like in MAGA hats, was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, we've definitely faced, I think, the most campus backlash out of every student organization that exists.
Yeah, I bet. I see you guys always stirring up something.
It's somehow, some way, it's always in the press.
Yeah. But those debates are hilarious. I mean, they're good. The people that you get on those, it's like, is that a planned debate? Like, it's so funny.
No, none of them are planned.
That's crazy.
These are all genuine college students. And people ask me this all the time, like, do you guys plant these liberals to ask Charlie these questions? Like, no, these kids actually come up. They're bold enough to ask those questions in front of a bunch of conservatives, which I think is really fun that, they're willing to go up there and ask some crazy questions. But I don't know. It's the aura around this, especially this year when we had a special guest. We had Vivek on with us. We had Tulsi Gabbard traveling us. Bryce Hall was at a couple of our schools. Yeah. And so, we were actually getting into the culture. George Jenko was there as well. So we had a lot of special guests on our tour, which I think just made it even more fun for the kids.
What was your favorite campus? Was it Penn State?
Oh, honestly, Penn State. The energy was really good there. I also loved UW-Madison. That was one of our first swing states that we visited. Went to Georgia. UGA energy was insane. And while we were at UGA, there was a Harris Walls table set up. And you saw these like just super liberal soy boys trying to get people to vote for Harris. And then you have literally 2,500 plus conservatives in the same quad, just like frat boys everywhere. It was awesome.
Dean Withers was probably one of those soy boys.
Probably.
Yeah, he's big. What do you think of that kid, actually? Charlie debated him.
I know. It was on the Jubilee panel.
Yeah.
Listen, I actually think that Dean has a lot better debating skills than Harry, to be honest. I think he's, I like how he sticks to his word and will actually debate people and have these conversations. I don't think he'll ever be conservative. I think he's drank the Kool-Aid on the left too much, but like, I don't really know who he's persuading to vote for the left. Like, I really don't feel like he's talking to anyone outside of the echo chamber.
Yeah. Another one of your tweets I saw, Congress potentially making backdoor deals with big pharma before Trump gets into office.
That was a big one.
Yeah, what do you think's going on there?
You know, especially with like the Make America Healthy, I think that Congress right now, I think that everyone who is in office on the left is a little scared of what Elon, what Vivek, what Trump, what RFK is going to do. And I will say that RFK really did change the game. I was here in Glendale when he had the endorsement of Trump and brought out everybody on stage. And I think that that moment was a cultural shift for this generation. And I think that women, for the most part, voted in favor of Trump because of the RFK endorsement, because they care about the future health of their children. They care about their futures as mothers. You know, they don't want to be poisoned themselves. And looking at these cancer-causing ingredients and how are they legal and okay in America? And so, you know, I think there's a lot of money. You know, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry with these corporate conglomerates like Kellogg's, like General Mills, that are using the money to literally harm and poison Americans. And I think it needs to be exposed. And I think as soon as that RFK gets in there, we're going to see a lot of what's been going on behind closed doors.
Absolutely. That was such a pivotal moment in the election when RFK teamed up. I think that won a lot of women and a lot of people just that are health conscious.
Yeah, and even independents, people who, you know, are staunch RFK supporters. They, for the first time, saw, you know what, if Trump's going to stand by his word and instill RFK to help in there, then you know what, we can support him.
Absolutely. Do you think we need term limits? Nancy Pelosi's 84. She just had a nasty fall.
Absolutely. I think there should be term limits across the board. I don't think that you should just be able to be a career politician in your 80s and your 90s. You know, I think there reaches a point where you've kind of done enough. You've done your time. Maybe let someone new take over. And yeah, Nancy Pelosi is a skeleton at this point.
Maybe a cognitive test at a certain age too.
You know, I would be mandatory cognitive tests and term limits. I don't think that's too much to ask for. I don't know why like Biden was so anti-cognitive tests. Like, I think the American people deserve to know what your abilities are.
Yep. They need to do that with driving too, because there's some old people driving. I'm not trying to be ageist, but like you could tell they're not.
If you can pass a driving test, if you can pass a cognitive test and you're not like too far over the hill, then, you know, we'll let you just keep driving.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's reasonable.
You drink raw milk, huh?
I do. I'm a big raw milk girl.
I love it.
It is the best.
Amish farms, baby.
Amish farms, especially in DC. You have to find a farm, then go pick it up from the farm or have one of your friends do it. And it's the best if you get the A2 raw milk in a glass jar. Are you a raw milk drinker?
I am. Yeah. I put it in coffee. Sometimes I'll drink it straight up too.
Oh, I just a glass of milk a day. Yeah. I mean, I put it in my coffee too, but I'm a
in Vegas, it's so hard to get. It's actually sketchy. You got to meet people like in weird places.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because it's banned, right?
Yeah, it will. See, what's cool. So like, we're in Arizona right now. In Arizona, you can actually go to Sprouts grocery store and buy a half a gallon of raw milk right off the shelf. You do not have to go to a farm. I think Arizona is one of the few states that actually allows that. But why isn't raw milk legal? We were drinking raw milk for years before the government stepped in and said, no, that we need to have pasteurization, which is killing all of the good bacteria in the milk. Drinking pasteurized milk is having pretty much zero nutritional value to you. You're drinking white water at that point. And I just think it's a little ridiculous that.
Which is crazy because as kids, we were taught it's the most healthy drink.
Right?
To drink
calcium,
milk.
Vitamin D, it's going to make your bones grow. It's like not with all of these additives and you've removed all the good bacteria from, you know, we've been eating raw milk or we've been drinking raw milk for years. Why are we now at a point where the government is controlling what we can and can't eat? Yeah,
FDA, right? They don't want you to be preventative.
Well, we all know that the 3-letter organizations are not elected officials.
Right.
They were instilled and they just want to control the American population.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the overhaul on that.
It's the Doge.
Doge, baby.
Doge is coming in.
Yeah, I had Karlyn on yesterday and he was just explaining how corrupt it is.
It's so corrupt. Big Pharma, big food. I know Alex Clark has been doing wonders exposing what is going on with Callie Means. I know we just had the Senate hearing literally a month ago.
Yeah.
And I know Callie Means was there. And it's so necessary. And like asking myself, how did we get here and why did it take so long? And why are we continuously allowing Americans to get sicker and sicker? And why are we allowing the FDA to dictate what we can and can't eat when what we can eat is literal poison?
Exactly. And that's why RFK hit deep with everyone, because everyone can relate to that. They got someone in their family that's sick, that was mistreated, misdiagnosed.
Chronic illness is all of a sudden normal. Prescription drugs are normal. Try and find somebody in your community that doesn't have a prescription drug, that isn't going to a CVS or Walgreens every single week or month to pick up a new pharmaceutical.
Right.
Like, we have completely drugged the next generation. Even like ADHD medication is like Adderall is being prescribed to kids as young as 6 years old.
Yep.
Like, maybe we need an overhaul with the Department of Education, the FDA, stop poisoning our children and instead put them outside and give them better educational tools than telling them to sit in a desk for 9 hours a day.
Yep.
And maybe give them some raw milk and I think they'll turn out just fine.
Yeah. You really think the Department of Education is going to go?
I don't know if it's going to go completely, but I do think that we need an overhaul with it. I saw a post on X that said, I can't believe that people want to abolish the Department of Education. Test scores are at an all-time low. Kids are more depressed than ever. And it's like, yeah, because of the Department of Education, because these kids are stuck in these classrooms for 8-9 hours a day, having to take core curriculum, which is definitely not encouraging intelligence. And it's like, why are we treating these kids like they're all the same instead of actually empowering them to learn and have critical thinking skills?
Absolutely. All the smartest people I know dropped out of college.
Me too.
So there's something there, I think.
I think you're right.
Well, Morgan, it's been awesome. What are you doing next year and where can people find you?
You guys can find me all over the place. If you can spell my name, you can find me. Morgonn. But it is just Morgan, 2 N's and an O. What am I up to this next year? Living in DC. I'm really hopeful for the new admin to come in there. Maybe DC will be a little less liberal now, and just shooting all the content all around the Capitol Hill.
I love it. We'll link your stuff below. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you.
See you guys.